We continue now our conversation with our friend and our leader, Stephen Veazey, about the mission initiatives. In particular, now we're going to be talking about inviting people to Christ. So, Steve, I've heard in some congregations actually that are growing, meaning they're having many baptisms and or confirmation, that they use this term, the victory is in the invitation. And that is said by from the youngest to the oldest. What does that statement mean to you, and what would the value of that statement lived out in the life of people be?
Yeah, the victory is in the invitation. I think that's great. If we could just get that into our minds and our hearts, our words and our actions, we would find transformation in our congregations. I think one way to understand it is theologically, and that is the gospel is invitation, if we think about it. It's God's invitation through the life and ministry and death and resurrection of Jesus Christ. God is inviting us to experience a new kind of life in a new kind of community. And the appeal, the scriptures say, the invitation of God comes through Christ and those who are followers of Christ. So the gospel is all about invitation. Angels announcing to shepherds that Jesus has been born and inviting them to go and see and be in His very presence. Jesus, when He is starting His public ministry, walking by the lakeside and inviting fishermen to come and follow Him. And then those first disciples being so excited about what they've discovered in Jesus Christ that they rush to friends and relatives and invite them. Jesus, through His parables, is inviting people to come into a new relationship with God. We think about the women who were at the tomb, the empty tomb, rushing back and telling the apostles what they had seen and inviting them to come and see the empty tomb also. On the day of Pentecost, Peter boldly inviting thousands of people to come and be baptized in the name of Christ so that they can experience the joys and blessings of the gospel too. The gospel is all about invitation. And so we carry the spirit of invitation in everything we do, whether it's worship or our Christian education classes where we do disciple formation, our community service. We're always inviting. Inviting means to be welcoming, to be hospitable. It means that in our congregations, visitors are guests, just like we would treat a guest who comes to our home to share a meal or to have fellowship with us. The kind of preparation we would make for guests coming to our home is the kind of experience we should offer at every church activity. People should know they're expected, they're welcomed, we've anticipated their needs, and they are always invited to either enter into relationship with Christ and the church or to continue to grow in their relationship with Christ and the church. So bottom line, it means we're always looking for opportunities to simply say, come with me and experience what God has in store for you in Jesus Christ.
Yes. So we really worship a missionary God.
Yes. Who's always inviting.
He's always inviting.
Always inviting us.
Always reaching out to.
Yeah. And we think about the parables that Jesus told in the New Testament. A lot of times it had to do with invitation. The parable of the great banquet. Go out into the city. Go out into the countryside. and invite people who don't even expect to be invited to come to the banquet. The parable of the prodigal, the father who doesn't just wait at the door for the returning child. He's anxiously watching for him, and when he catches a glimpse of him, he goes and meets him and invites him home. That's the spirit of invitation that we're talking about.
Yeah, and it really is a matter of loving people so much that you want for them that intimate relationship with God.
And they know it.
Yes.
They experience it and they know it. And that does more than anything to draw them into the fellowship of the congregation and for them to begin to experience the blessings of the gospel.
One of my favorite scriptures, and it's just one line that I really try to live by as my own way of living, is in Luke 19:10, where it says, "The Son of Man came to seek out and to save the lost." And I oftentimes think if each one of us would be having those sensitive spiritual eyes looking for those people who are lost spiritually, who are disconnected from the source of God's grace, what a difference that would make.
What a difference it would make. And I think it's important for us to understand that inviting is not just inviting and pressing people to come to church. Do we have an inviting personality as we're interacting with people on a daily basis? Are we acknowledging them as a person of worth? Are we hospitable in our relationships? And then we can invite people to all kinds of activities because they will be responding to the love of God that is inviting them through us, through our words, through our actions.
That's one of the characteristics of a group of people who are invitational, is that they're not just dependent on relationships within the body,
right,
but they actually have relationships in the community. And sometimes I hear people say, well, all my friends are members of the community of Christ, or I don't know anybody that's not churched. What would your response be to someone who would make those kinds of statements?
They need to get out more. They need to get out and interact with people.
Yeah.
Some days when I'm here in the office, in the temple, I intentionally leave the office and not just go outside my office, but I may walk down to the local convenience store or go to other places to just interact with people, to be with them. And I try to be kind. I try to say good morning or good afternoon. I try to make eye contact, even if they're downcast and not looking at me. All of that is what we mean by being invitational. It's opening the door through our actions for someone to respond, even in conversation, if they choose to do so.
Yes, yes. And so invite people to Christ. You've already touched on it a little bit. How it seems like it's seamless with the other 4 mission initiatives. It's almost like the gateway to, it's critical for the other 4 mission initiatives.
When we understand it in its broadest terms, it's about the spirit in which we engage in all the mission initiatives. The invitational, hospitable, warm, welcoming spirit. It's also about intentionally being engaged in evangelistic ministries, which some congregations have put aside in order to focus on other ministries that they're more comfortable with or more passionate about. When we focus on the mission initiative, invite people to Christ, then we carry that spirit of evangelism into every aspect of what we're doing. We also make sure that the invitation is there and is being heard in all of our ministries. So yes, they're all interrelated, they're all connected, and we need to focus on all of them. And in fact, they tend to lead into each other. For example, I know of people who have been attracted to the church because of our emphasis on justice and peacemaking. And as a result of being enthused about that aspect of our ministry, then they came to understand more about the church and decided to express their discipleship in the fellowship and ministry of the community of Christ by being baptized and confirmed or confirmed members of the church.
Yes. In fact, I met a woman several weeks ago. Her name is Lynn, and she actually came to the church through invitation because of joining with the church in reaching out to the homeless. And
Right.
she was with those people who had such care and love and compassion for the homeless that she was wanting to be a part of it as well. And through that action, then she was naturally invited into the congregation, and she and her husband have recently been baptized.
That's exactly it.
What you were saying.
Right.
Yes, yes.
When we are involved in the mission of Jesus, others will be attracted to be involved in that mission too. And they will be moved upon by the Spirit to become more committed as either new disciples of Jesus Christ or revived disciples of Jesus Christ.
Yes. So Steve, if someone wanted to look at their envelope and give money to invite people to Christ, or go on the website that is giveyour10.org, which lists all the mission initiatives with stories of people who are engaged in those mission initiatives, as well as talking about the impact in people's lives because of people in each of these mission initiatives. What would happen if people give to invite people to Christ internationally? Would there be a difference?
There'd be a huge difference, and we're hopeful that people really respond. We have more opportunities for sharing the gospel and planting the church in new areas than we have resources to respond to those opportunities. In some ways, that's always the case. The vision of the church is always greater than its current resources, and we live in that tension. But particularly now, we know of areas in the United States, in other nations, that are ready. They're open doors. People are asking for the witness and the presence of the community of Christ. And we want to go there. And we will go there, hopefully. But when we go there, we need to be able to sustain and grow the work of the church in those areas. So when people contribute to invite people to Christ, the focus is on those missionary initiatives that increase the number of church member disciples throughout the world, that plant the church in new areas, establish congregations to reach new groups of people, and that open the work of the church in new nations. And all of that will increase and accelerate as the church responds to that mission initiative.
Thank you, Steve, for talking about Invite People to Christ. And we encourage each one of you to become fully engaged in that mission initiative and be generous in your mission ties so that the mission of Jesus Christ can go to many places throughout the world and many lives will be transformed. And next, we're going to be talking about abolish poverty in suffering.